how we contain our culture is what I'm going to talk about today. Many elements of our culture are disposable and some are not. And so what we need to do is classify what is conservable and keepable and what is waste. Okay. We contain our oral culture in language. So the question arises, what language? We contain our belongings in containers like these, okay? And we end up throwing a lot of them away, which creates pollution in the landfill. So how do we deal with that? So that's what I'm thinking about today, is how we contain the elements of our culture that actually make sense and need to be talked about. First of all, I'll talk about the kitchen. You know, in the kitchen, we have lots of stuff stuffed in cupboards. And we get stuff. I got this container when I bought some lunch meat. And it is a dynamite container. And I've kept it now for some time, and I reuse it all the time because it's good for leftovers. And it's good for half of this and a part of that. So keep these. Now, these puppies I bought, and I got a whole bunch of them because they go in the freezer. They go in the freezer, you take them out of the freezer, you put them in warm water and to defrost whatever. I don't use a microwave. And you can serve in this too. So this is from freezer to warm up to serving. And I got this at a thrift shop. Now this is the original Tupperware. It has to be at least 60 years old. And this plastic never goes away, all right? So don't throw away your Tupperware because it's designed to literally last forever, all right? And the whole challenge of what to keep and what to throw away is a part of our culture that is not spoken to, okay? There's no course on what to keep and what to throw away. I was just watching Antiques Roadshow, okay? Antiques Roadshow. And people keep the most incredible stuff, okay? They keep stuff that belonged to their great-great-grandmother. They keep stuff that they don't even know what it's for anymore. Okay, all right. Well, we're at a point in history where things are about to change and we're going through a transition ourselves. And so I'm making that transition conscious, okay? What do I keep? What do I give to the thrift store? What do I throw in the recycle bin? And what do I still talk about and what not talk about? Because the narcissists in my life get upset, okay? A narcissist is a person who has a point of view they want to hang on to for dear life, all right? They contain their point of view. And we have to be able to deal with them fairly and tactfully without the typical me versus them orientation that sets us apart and makes us adversaries, all right? This whole talk about narcissism as if the narcissist is bad is just sad. It's sad because we become narcissists as soon as we have an unpopular opinion that the people in our family don't like, okay? We become narcissists as soon as we grow out of something that our family's still into, and they want us to come back to the herd, and we want to do what is appropriate for us. That's when Somebody is pinning the narcissist label on us, and we are containing an opinion that they find uncomfortable. Well, we have to contain our opinions. We can't just be talked out of them, whether the opinion is about morality or about order, how things ought to be set out, or how things ought to be delivered in terms of a process, okay? There's all kinds of difficulties we can get into by expressing opinions that people don't want to hear, okay? And that's why all the talk about narcissism. See what I'm saying? There's also the problem of language, all right? Now, language for me in the United States, because the books I have read are English, and the videos and the media and so on are English. Although I have a smattering of French and a smattering of German, I'm primarily English. And that's what I will consider to be my cultural language and not just my utilitarian language. All right? All right. And if I were to live in a city like San Francisco, like I used to, or in London, or Paris, I would be on the end of the problem having to learn French, because in Paris, the French language is the language by which they set out social order, they set out social morality, they set out the law process. And so if you're in Paris, you damn well better know French. And if you're in the UK or the US or Australia, or, well, Canada has its French sector, just like San Francisco has its Chinatown, okay? There are sectors in cities where other languages that are not the primary language go on normally as someone's home language. There's the home language and the civil language. All right, but there's a movement in academia, which I call quackademia, because they just head trip. They have no concept of the outcomes that they are creating with their Marxist teachings among our youth. But be that as it may, in terms of language, we use our language to teach tact, civility, due process, law, thrift, nutrition, hygiene. We use our language to contain our culture and convey our culture to the younger generation. And in the past half century, the education profession and the legal profession have absolutely failed at both of those tasks. Today, people walking around on the street have almost no idea that the English laws of the land are at odds with the maritime admiralty laws of the sea. In the United States, we have no awareness how the UCC codes and administrative codes wrap around and debase the common laws of the land based on constitutional law. So the legal profession has failed to teach the people how the law works. Instead, they hold it like this and they dole out what they're willing to teach for a fee. And I have very little respect for the entire legal profession because, well, for one thing, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution forbade attorneys, barristers, or lawyers from ever serving in the legislature because they're games people. right? And same thing with education. Horace Mann, back in 1880, decided that the one-room school where the older children taught the younger children, and they were utilizing textbooks that taught good manners, tact, and civility, needed to be replaced with textbooks that produced compliant workers only and not literate thinkers. And so when I went to UC Berkeley in 1960 during the free speech movement of Mario Savio, that tells you how old I am, okay, I was watching the just rank rabble rousing and the young people who believed that by destroying the civil order we have, that somehow we're improving things. And so I didn't last very long at Berkeley. When I went back to college in my 40s, from 1984 to 1993, 9 years in which I got my baccalaureate and won my master's, what I noticed was that the government had reverted the academics by the use of grants processes to a system of propaganda in which the process and the rule baiting had become more important than the outcomes that were being taught and told were possible. All right. In nursing, they were reciting and holding to rules rather than teaching principles of nutrition and healing and body electronics and body biochemistry. In public policy, they were doing some wonderful work in conflict and dispute analysis and resolution, utilizing computer technology to map and set up the critical path to resolve conflicts. And that's what I got my master's in 1993. And I had a good GPA, it's around a 3.4. But what I noticed subsequent to that is that all of our knowledge of how to resolve conflicts and how to respect points of view and how to give everybody a chance to tell their story has gone down the toilet. And now people who tell their story, who don't fall into the left, the right versus the left, the red versus the blue, the radical versus the middle of the road or the centrist, are simply laughed off the stage. Having a civil means and method and process of telling your point of view has become an object of being trolled and gaslit and ridiculed. And so process of ridicule and protest and anger and hatred and potshot has become more important than the outcome of settling conflicts, disputes, and issues. And that's all part of what we contain. And I refuse to contain the hatred for anyone. I refuse to use naming, blaming, and shaming as the bullying methods of getting my way. And when it comes to recycling, I'm very careful about what I put in which container. It really matters what words you use in response to which issue before your audience. And that's what one can continue to work at and to learn and become better than I was the day before, even in my late 70s. There's still plenty to work on. And I just want to let you know that if you're in your 40s and you think you know enough, you don't know enough, honey. You got work to do because we've got problems that aren't getting solved. And we are not containing the tact and the due process to solve them. Not right now. We're going to need some help from God. I'm certain of that. And this has been Emily Craig, and this is my daily blog. And I hear words from my prayer life, and I share them with you. And you can subscribe or do whatever you like. I don't charge. And so, as they say, have a nice day. Bye-bye.